One. We are live and back with a legend of Australian Survivor, a wood chopping champion, the one and only Bronze Tribe member. It is Gerald the Wood Chopper. Gerald Youles, welcome back to Reality Pop. It's great to have you on again.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and Riley the legend. It is an absolute pleasure to be back.
Mate, you've faced some tough days recently, obviously with the Queensland floods. How are things up there for you?
Yeah, look, it's certainly been trying times out where I am at Kilcoy. We got hit pretty hard, and it was a pretty big flood. We lost a lot of fences and a lot of farm ground. But very much like Survivor, we just got to pick up the pieces the next day and try and make the most of it and come out on top at the end. Hey.
Yep, and you still got enough time to join us, which is we always love having you on, and it's always great fun. Obviously, as you guys are watching as well in the live stream, if you do have any questions for Gerald and I throughout the podcast, certainly feel free to leave them for us. But Gerald, I suppose you've experienced a bit of FOMO this season, not being on the big screen.
Yeah, it's certainly different sitting back and watching Survivor compared to being on it. And being able to watch it with hindsight and after being there yourself and having that experience to back it up, completely different experience. And it is phenomenal. Phenomenal.
Yeah. Yeah. Would you play Blood vs. Water with your sister maybe, or?
Oh, look, it would be so hard. I do not envy these guys one bit that are on this season because it is nail-biting, cliffhanger stuff every single week because it is just brutal stuff.
Yeah,
but,
and we also saw a lot.
I probably would go back though, you know.
Yeah,
I probably would go back.
We saw a lot of that cutthroat this week, obviously, with Jesse being cut. It was a huge loss, a massive move in the game, and we'll certainly get into that. But what have your thoughts been overall so far this season? What castaways have stood out to you so far as well?
Yeah, look, this season has been an absolute cracker. It has been keeping us on the edge of our seats every single episode. And this last week is the best so far for every reason that everyone that's watching probably knows that we're going to get into very shortly. But the moves have been great, especially from the returning players. And you can really tell that the returning players are there to play. And they have just been standout this season. And poor old Jesse got the full brunt of that this week, unfortunately. But yeah, he was there, and I'm sure he enjoyed it. And I know exactly what that feels like to be blindsided like that by someone that you were trying to put your trust in. But that's the way the cookie crumbles in Survivor.
And of course, similar mold as well, Sam Gash to Hayley Leak as well, obviously, two physical based and strategic masterminds. But I'm sure Jesse, I think he has a very similar attitude to yourself. He just dusts things off and gets on with it. I think he was obviously a little bit hurt, but Jesse has been such a standout so far this season, such a vibrant character, and his brother as well, as the whole cast has.
Absolutely. And it's funny, I drew a lot of similarities between Jesse and Geordie, both of them, and myself, especially this last week. The way that Jesse handled that blindside and how the blindside went down, but as well as Geordie out there trying to spread that information around a bit about the idol that Sam had afterwards in this latest episode and how that went down. It's just a real shame that he couldn't rally the numbers and didn't quite have those social connections to be able to make that vote stick.
And at the start of the week, obviously, we saw that Jesse and Geordie were in this committee alliance featuring Josh and Jordan, obviously one couple, Mark and Sam being the other couple. Jesse and Geordie as well were brought into that with Chrissy and David as the stragglers. They looked to have a pretty good position in the game, but obviously, in Australian Survivor, things shift very, very quickly. And I think for Geordie, he really he was seen by Josh as being someone who was untrustworthy, someone that he couldn't see himself working with going forward in the game. And we saw before this reward challenge even, some of those seeds were starting to be sown by Josh to try and start to shift the tide against the brothers.
Yeah, a perfect analogy. And moving through with that alliance, as they went through the week, you could really see that that alliance, it really was a strong alliance that had the ability to go right to the end. But
Mm.
there's always that one or two people in that alliance that don't quite think that they are in a strong enough position, and they blow it up, and the whole thing just disintegrated in a matter of minutes, uh, much to the detriment of both uh, Jesse and Shay at the end of the
Yeah.
day. But we're just going to wait and see whether that blowing up of that committee is enough to get those people, i.e., Sam and Mark, through to the end by moving those positions around and trying to reform a new alliance.
Yeah, and I had a lot of discussion with my co-host Robin last week about what Sam did last week. Obviously, with it was Michelle and Khan going home last week. Sorry,
Mel and
And Khan
Khan,
going
yeah.
home last week. One of the twins. But last week I was sort of saying that Sam didn't really take the opportunity she had to take control of the game, where she could have possibly gathered in some of those girls and taken some control from her husband. But it seemed like this week Sam was the one wearing the pants because she was dictating to Mark what was going on, who had to be the targets. And she did say very early on, after Geordie started to show these seeds of dissent, that he was probably the man that should be marked.
Oh, absolutely. And she certainly took the game by the reins this week and ran with it, hey. But oh, you've got to be so careful when you're aiming for those big spots and coming from a lower position, because I really think that she's going to be in a world of trouble this week.
Yeah, and we had a reward challenge, which was certainly worth playing for in my mind. Obviously, last season, I don't think you got the pleasure of eating KFC out in Cloncurry.
I absolutely did. I only missed out on one reward challenge the whole time I was there.
Yeah, no, KFC, obviously, always nice to feast on some wicker wings, some zinger burgers out in the bush. And we did have
that was one of my biggest highlights.
What was your favorite from the finger licking good reward? What's your go-to order?
Oh, mate, out there, the KFC that we had at Cloncurry was the best KFC I've ever eaten. It was perfection. And the wicked wings and original recipe they had out there was to die for. We literally ate until we were sick, and then we ate again, and then we were sick again, and then we ate again, and it was disgusting.
Yeah,
but that was one of my absolute highlights of Survivor. Not only going on the KFC challenge, but making media watch the following week because of the ads in Survivor that they were putting on there, and it was simply a video of me saying, "This is finger looking good," and I'm like, "That's when you've made it. When you make media watch the KFC, that's gold."
Yeah, media watch. Paul Barry always gives everyone some hard stick, and I think last week he would have given some as well. 60K reward last week. I mean, I know it was last week's episode, but what do you think about that Set for Life prize? That was massive.
That was enormous, and you had to know that if you went out there and you won that, you were probably going to be in trouble in the very near future because, well, as we know, lots of Australians tend to have the tall poppy syndrome. You know, we just like to cut someone down that's already won. And I think Khan was already on the chopping blocks, and the fact that he won, I think, sealed the deal. But it is what it is, and Khan's sitting on the jury, and he gets to make the decision at the end of the day. $60,000 richer.
Yeah, that's right. I said $60,000 richer or $440,000 poorer. You got to consider which one it is.
Well, he's definitely $52,000 richer than every other person that doesn't win.
That is absolutely right. And I think one of the sticking points of Australian Survivor, among other sticking points, Jenny Kay here in the chat, and we will go deep into this move later, obviously. Sam's move was the Australian Survivor version of Eric giving up immunity. Sam is an icon.
Yeah, it certainly was. I guess the only difference was that it was not while they were in tribal that it got given up. But it was brutal to watch. And, the feeling that Jesse would have had the moment that first vote came out with his name on it, I personally know that sinking feeling is just, it is the worst thing you've ever felt. It is just, you feel literally sick. It is just something else. It's hard to explain and hard to describe that feeling when you haven't been there, because I thought I knew what it was like to have those hardships, and I've copped a lot of losses in my time as a professional athlete and whatnot. But the moment that those votes start getting read out, it is something completely otherworldly.
Yeah, it's especially to come from your closest ally. But we'll go back to the reward challenge. But before we go deep into the discussion of the strategy around that, because Jesse, just like you, he did get a taste of that finger licking good chicken, some wicker wings, some original recipe popcorn chicken. He enjoyed that a lot. Obviously, Chrissy and Geordie pulled out that reward challenge win. Together, they did pick Jesse, Jordan, and Mark to join them on the reward. And while there, obviously, you got to look for that chicken and enjoy gorging down on the KFC reward, but also keep an eye out for the clues. And Geordie and Jesse, they hit the jackpot here.
Yeah, they absolutely did. And the fact that they found it in amongst them towels and stuff, and was really, it was a really hard place to be found. It was one of those things that if you were worried about the actual reward, you wouldn't have found it, because they were out of the way. Those chairs were sort of sitting just down to the side to go and sit down there away from the reward challenge itself. And it was one of them things that it could have been missed so easily. Because if you had just picked the towel up and sat it to the side, if you haven't worried about rolling it out, you would have missed it, because it was actually in the towel.
That's right. And I was scared a little bit, because Jordan obviously came up right next to Geordie, I think it was, while Jesse was sort of maneuvering, trying to get that clue up his bottom. Obviously, you were one that saw Simon find an idle clue. Jordan wasn't nearly as lucky, but certainly I would have been very nervous if I was Geordie and Jesse.
Oh, absolutely. If you find one of those idols or clues, if someone else finds out, your chicken is fried. Like, it's almost going to be null and void having it. So they would have been so tedious in there and just stepping on eggshells trying to hide that and hoping that no one else seen it. And it's really surprising that someone didn't cotton onto that, because, I mean, we all get pretty handsy when we're out there and we're all close buds, but to be sticking your hand down your brother's pants, that's something else.
Yeah, and I mean, Mark was a little bit trying to grill him. Obviously, as an SAS officer, he knows how to get everything out of whoever he's interrogating. He did try to sort of suss out Geordie and see whether they did have a clue. And he kind of did have an inkling going into the immunity challenge that something might be a little bit awry. And Mark has been someone throughout this season who has been very on the ball with his social reads. And we saw, I mean, going all the way back to episode 1, where Andy completely threw himself under the bus by really sticking out. Mark and Nina were very careful to sort of stay back and not paint a target on them. And I think Mark's done a very good job at reading social situations and understanding everyone's position within the game so far.
Absolutely. And I think it's a perfect testament to survivors returning. It is the returning players are just so dangerous, because that social awareness that you have around when you return. And I know even myself, sitting back and being able to watch a season that I wasn't involved in after I've been there, that I don't have a preconceived notion about, like I did with all the prior seasons to mine. When I'd watched them, I'd already had a preconceived notion before I went to Survivor of what had happened and what was there. But after being there and being able to watch this season, there is just so many telltale signs that stand out. They stand out blindingly once you've been there. And hindsight is always 2020 looking back at my season. But to be able to look at this season and look into what's happening, and look at a future season possibly and be able to read what's happening around you with those social situations and the way that people are carrying themselves or holding themselves or talking about a certain subject. Being able to read that is just invaluable in this game. And it stands out so well with the likes of Sandra. She can read those situations so well. After being there 6 times, I can only imagine how enlightened she is to the way that people use themselves in this game and use other people and word particular subjects when they're talking about them, or even the way that people slightly change and act when they find an idol or a clue. And it's so obvious. And we've seen that time and time again when she was talking in tribal councils or when she was talking even just to the rest of the tribe about subjects that you would see what she was talking about, and you could just see it as a viewer. The moment that she said it, you're like, why didn't I see that before? I should have known that was there, but it's one of those, there's these subtle cues that in everyday life you don't even think about. They just brush you by and you don't worry about it. But in Survivor, those subtle cues are invaluable. And Nina was another great example that even though she wasn't a returning player, the fact that she had been skilled up and taught so well by Sandra from sitting there and watching so many seasons with Sandra pointing out time and time again all of those cues that I'm talking about really showed. Just having that information at your disposal is unbelievable. And you can see in the players that haven't been there before that they miss those subtle cues, like Jesse with the idol. Me as a returning player, there is no way in hell I would have gave my idol over to someone at final 10 or 12. No way. After merge, you got to be joking.
Yeah, I'm going to seek a third opinion here as well. Bring in my co-host, Robin. Robin is back.
Oh my
Robin,
God, I'm in and now I can't hear you.
You can't hear me.
Are you kidding me? I was listening to you. But look, my third opinion. Look, I'm going to talk about it anyway. Gerald, I can't hear you anyway. But why would you give them the idol like pre-10 or 12? You just don't give the idol at all.
Well, absolutely.
Look, what a way to come in. I can't hear a thing. Take me off. Let me see if I can hear stuff. I'll be back. I'll give you a thumbs up in the chat.
We will give him. We'll give him a minute to try and figure out his technical issues.
That is a real shame, Riley, because I have to say that was a great segue.
It was a great segue. But I do have another segue for you on the topic of returning players. You did mention there how obviously Nina knew the lay of the land because her mother had played 6 times. She'd obviously been taught by the best, the very best. You were on a season where it was obviously all newbies, but do you think that it is a disadvantage to have returning players on a mixed season, or do you think it's kind of fair?
Oh, absolutely.
What was essentially 4 returning players?
Oh, mate, having returning players as well as new players, like a champions versus contenders or a fans versus favorites, or it's just brutal. Like, you know that 99% of the fans are gonna get blitzed. Like, it's George and Haley are the anomaly in our season that were fans that didn't get blitzed. Well, I mean, they were in a season with all newbies, of course, like myself, but they were the anomaly that they had that strategic mind and they were that in-depth into Survivor prior to going on there. And look, I was a fan before we went on there, certainly not to the level of Haley and George, but I had watched all of the Survivors and I planned around it and I strategized around it, but they were something else. But as I said, they are the complete anomaly in this situation. Having a returning player with a multitude of other people who aren't is just brutal because they have that social awareness and that spatial awareness around them of what's happening that none of the other players do. And it's one of those things that I thought I did by the time that we got to merge and after that. But after watching our season back as well, and after being home and being able to analyze everything and think about what happened in a setting where it doesn't really matter anymore and that pressure is off, it just all comes to fruition. The light just turns on to all of those things that you should have realized when you were there, but you're worried what you're going to do and how you're going to step out of line. And yeah, it's something that's really tough to work out if you don't already know.
Yeah, that's right. I suppose on the topic of returning players, let's say
someone's trying to ring me.
That's all right. See how
the joys of using a phone.
Yeah, no, that's all good. We've still got a hold of you at least. On the topic of returning players, hypothetical situation, I'm going to put it out there. Let's say that you're a returning captain and you have to pick, let's say, one Australian survivor female and a person from each gender to join you from US Survivor as well. Your captains, let's say maybe a Brains versus Brawn theme. Who do you bring along with you?
Oh, that's tough. If you had to bring someone from American Survivor, a male that I would bring would be Colby. You remember Colby from Australia way back. What an absolute legend. That would be an absolute classic. I reckon we could tear it up. There's so many great players that would just be so much fun to play with. It's so hard to narrow it down to individual people, but some of the absolute legends of the game that know their way around would be awesome to play with. The likes of Amber or a Boston Rob or someone, because they've been there so many times. But I'd be so dubious bringing someone that has been there so many times, because even though I've been there once, they've been there multiple times, and I would be afraid that would certainly play badly on me. But if you could bring someone from a Brains point of view, that'd be a whole nother kettle of fish again. We were on talking about the other day, and I had a chat with Chappies from South Africa, and I get along really well with Chappies. We've had a few conversations about playing together and whatnot there, and he is just an absolute legend. I would love to be able to play Survivor with Chappies, and I think that we would make a really, really good alliance.
I reckon it would go very well. Chappie is obviously a Brawn member. Let's see if we can bring Robin back in here. Robin,
I can hear you. I can hear you. This is a good start. I'm good. Sorry, I'm just jumping in midstream. What a ridiculous person I am. I'm back. Nice to meet you, Gerald. I'm Robin. Can you not hear me at all?
Back me up too. I finally got some audio back, hopefully.
Okay. Yeah, I hear you.
I think now that Robin's gone, Gerald's a little bit out there. I think we're all good though. Anyway, Robin, now that we got you, Gerald, let me know if you do have any issues. Robin, now that we got you, we were discussing Geordie and Jesse finding that idol at the reward, and what a dangerous move it was for them, obviously, with Jordan so close. But a great thing to have in their possession, an idol clue. We won't talk about the aftermath just yet, though.
Yeah, look, it was a really nice. I loved Geordie tucking it into the pants. I thought that was, and you know what? If Jesse gets caught with it, it was Jesse's fault as well. Like there's a couple of little layers that I really like about how Geordie went about it. Geordie, I like his thinking. I like a lot of stuff that he's doing. It unfortunately isn't being executed as well as I'd hope it to be, but I am liking I'm liking what I'm seeing of Geordie. Geordie's still coming around pretty strongly at the moment, which is nice. Geordie's doing some really good things right now.
That's right.
Gerald.
I think
I'm sad.
Gerald's just dropped out. He'll be back in no time, I'm sure. I think he's just having issues with his phone, but that's all good. The immunity challenge, we get into that, and it's a bit of an interesting one, something we haven't really seen on Australian Survivor before. We have some pegs which we got to balance on while balancing a ball on
Don't
a
mind
table
me.
with some ropes.
Look, technical difficulties all over the shop.
What do we think about the immunity challenge, Gerald? It was in this first episode of the week.
It was
balls
brutal.
with the ropes.
Yeah, that was not fun. Not fun one bit. And just as JLP said, some of those challenges that look the simplest are by far the hardest.
Yeah,
it would have been absolute death. Standing up there, I can just imagine how much pain those guys would have been in. You could see at the end, Jesse's feet just shaking and Geordie's feet just shaking on those little tiny ledges that were left there for them. And it's certainly not something that I would have looked forward to doing as someone that's 120 odd kilos. I certainly don't think that my size would have been in my favour in that challenge.
Yeah, and Geordie's someone that did very well in the immunity challenges this week. I will pop you on mute while you're not talking, Gerald, if that's all right. Yeah, Geordie winning 2 immunity challenges this week. It really was quite impressive. Not so for his brother, but Robin, what a challenge beast Geordie has proven to be.
Geordie he has a great just mental resolve that is really coming about. We're just seeing this guy who just has this sheer determination. And that's when it comes down to it, that's all these challenges become: sheer determination, mind over matter. You know, like you have a Shay standard challenge beast yoga female that comes in that yoga pose, those long poses, it's the breath work, all that stuff really goes in favor. But then there's that next switch, and Geordie seems to be just coming in with some really good focus and just sheer determination. Like, it's like he doesn't want anyone to beat him. He could go all the way with it all if he keeps that mentality strong.
Yeah, and Gerald, what we normally see in Australian Survivor, especially with these endurance challenges, the brutal ones where you're having to stand for a long time, it's usually the females like Hayley and Flick on your season who last the longest. But Jesse and Geordie really are cut from a mold there, where they're marathon runners triathlon runners. Sorry, I won't sell them short there. So they know how to endure the tough times, and they're really given it their all. Similar to a Tyson in US Survivor, they're lanky enough where they can hold out in these endurance challenges.
Yeah, absolutely. In these challenges, you can really see, and it really stands out, that they are long distance athletes. The build that they have, they're not too tall, and they're quite lean for their size. And that really helps in these sort of challenges. Emmett was that person in our season. Again, an ultra same sort of thing. And it really stands out. That mental toughness as well for those extended periods is something completely different that most people in their normal life wouldn't understand. That 5, 6, 8 hour challenge is just mentally draining. So,
and
for someone like Hayley to be able to stand out and do it is great. And Shay is that exact same build, and she had the real makings of another challenge beast. It's a shame we're not going to get to see her in some of those really long challenges that were coming up.
She'll be back,
as Robin says, hold your horses. You never quite know what's going to happen there in the future with Shay, because it does look like there's going to be a twist at the end of the week. But
exactly, purgatory.
yeah, and we'll certainly focus on that. But as we said before, the big move of this episode, big move of this whole season, the one that Jenny Kay said was the equivalent of Eric giving up immunity in Australian Survivor. Jesse goes to find the idol, and we see that he is caught red-handed by Sam, his closest ally at this point, really, other than his brother. And Sam comes up to him and decides to take possession of the idol. And Gerald, it's a rookie move in Survivor, and as you said before, that experience coming to the fore of a returning player coming back for a second time against newbies.
Absolutely. In a game like this where, as I said, and I'll keep reiterating, in a game like this where Sam had already been there and Jesse didn't understand because he hadn't been there, that enlightenment that I've seen since I've been there, it was different on my season that I may have given that to someone like Flick, who I was really close to, who was also a brand new player. It is completely different, but after you've been there, mate, if someone had given it to me, if Flick had given it to me and I had that opportunity, I probably would have done the same thing at that point in the game. And if you think that you might be in trouble, mate, all bets are off. But the knowledge that you gain by being there before, and it just shows why these returning players come back and just smash it out of the ballpark time and time again. Like David, Janet, anyone that's been back, Sam and Mark are making a perfect example. Sandra being able to come back in and smoke it and win again in American Survivor. Like, it just stands out, hey?
Yeah, that's right. And Alo Lam here saying cold-blooded Sam. And absolutely, she was cold-blooded. And it reminded me a little bit, it did have those similarities to Eric giving up immunity, but I thought it more so reminded me a little bit of JT and Heroes vs. Villains. I'm sure you remember this, Gerald, where JT gave the idol to Russell, who he didn't know was the biggest villain in all of Survivor history because he hadn't seen his season, but gives his idol to Russell, who then, gives it to Parvati, who then blindsides JT with it. It did have shades of that, Robin, and such a brutal move to make, giving someone your idol, thinking you have full trust. And Robin, it didn't turn out well for Jesse in the end.
Look, and you know what? To be honest, I don't think it's going to turn out well for Sam either. I know there's a lot of hate going around, which is unnecessary. The game's a game. Like, let's play the game. I really like what she's trying to do. Like, there's an opportunity, and if you're an opportunist, you take it. However, the jury management element isn't there, and I feel like that's if hypothetically Sam was to get to the end, I would love Jesse and Geordie to kind of go, hey, the game's a game. You know, in that moment, sure, Jesse was hurt. He was really, really hurt. But, you know, that might just cost them 2 votes. It might cost them Dave's vote because Dave doesn't. I don't know if Dave really likes the move. Chrissy didn't seem like she liked the move either. So if she was to get to the end, I think it cost her there. I think she's probably next boot and she'll battle Shay because the theme is everyone wants their idols to hold on to them as long as they can as a defensive idol rather than an aggressive offensive play. I think she's going to try and feel safe and get blindsided, to be honest. But I love what she tried to do. Absolutely.
I 100% agree. She is going to really have her work cut out for her to stay in the game from now. And I actually thought that she might have been in trouble this week before she got the idol off Jesse. And after last week, I thought that she might have been in trouble, and there was every bit of a possibility that Mark might have even voted for her this week after they had the big alliance there last week, and she was sort of sitting on the outer and almost playing into the hands of the opposite alliance. I thought there was every chance that she could have got voted out this week, but she managed to, as we know, get the idol and move forward. But it will be an absolute battle of the Titans if Sam ends up with Shay battling it out on a redemption challenge, something like what we had, like the classic polls challenge. Mate, that could go for days with those two up on those poles. They would be there for sun up. They would have to make breakfast on the beach, you know? But
I hope for that purgatory challenge that we see that the challenge that Flick, George, and Haley had to endure for the final immunity. I hope we see something like that in the cage. And I mean, it is purgatory after all, so it's got to live up to the name somehow.
Exactly.
I'm sure it'll be a brutal endurance challenge.
Oh, I have no doubt. It's going to be big, and it's going to be painful. So if it's not something that it takes 6 hours, I'm going to be very surprised and
disappointed.
I just hope, for the sake of my my guilty pleasure of watching these people suffer when I'm not there and don't have to suffer, that someone really, really good like Sam ends up there, so it does go for 8 hours. I really want to see us break that record of Harry's on those polls. Would be amazing.
Yeah, I think Survivor Palau, the final immunity challenge on that season 10 in the US, I think that was up to about 11, 12 hours. So to see something like that broken would be great to see. It'd be a bragging right for us. But Gerald, you just wish pain on everyone.
I really do. I'm a sadist. I'm almost as as evil as those challenge creators when I'm sitting at home. When I'm there, completely different story.
Yeah, CD here saying, when you're a villain, man or woman, people are going to dislike you. She's playing like a snake. She has to own her game. And going back to what you said, Robin, before, with the jury and, potentially being displeased, I think for Sam to go, if she reaches final tribal council, it will be an uphill battle for her. I think for Sam, she really needs to own up to that move and say, it was my best move at the time. I think her best argument is saying, at that time in the game, I felt as though the boys, mainly Mark, Josh, and Jordan, had all the power. I wanted to gain some of that for myself because, as Gerald, you said there before, she was feeling on the outer and she really was, her back was against the wall. She had to make a big move at that point. I think if Sam does reach the end, she really has to own up to that and state her reason why she made such a brutal move.
Definitely. In this game that's getting played this season, with only Mark and Sam left as the returning players, they are now vastly outnumbered by newbies into the game, and it is almost the same as what our season was. See, the one thing that I knew out there, and Haley also knew that George didn't, was about jury management and playing that social game.
Yeah.
It is so imperative that you do that after merge and really keep those ties really close and really tight, because that's how you win this game. You don't win it in a season of newbies by stealing idols. In an all-star season, as I said, as a returning player, you'd be like, that is amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Let me see that again. But in a season of newbies, they are going to be like, that was the most ordinary move that you could have made. You were an absolute snake, and that was completely uncalled for. You are not getting my vote. The moment that they realize that, people don't appreciate being stabbed when you don't. They don't appreciate being stabbed in the back when they don't understand it. You get what I mean? It's really that first time, and I know the feeling. It is really it's really hard being out there and seeing that the first time. And once you've been there and done it once, you're enlightened and you're like, it's a completely different atmosphere. But
you want to be around that.
Yeah, exactly. But it's almost a complete jury. Well, it's going to be an almost complete jury of newbies, and you've got to be so wary of that. And again, play on those ties, play on that friendship, play on those really close connections, play on those helping moves, rather than the really snaky ones in the game. But Sam's only move is 100%, as you said. She's got to own up to every bit of it. And unlike George did, where George didn't own up to any of them, didn't own up to anything. And in our season, it wasn't so much. Well, look, I'm speaking for other people here as well, but it's not. It wasn't the big moves that really grated on everyone else. Like myself, I was a fan of the game, and I appreciate the big moves, and I could see what was happening all around me, and while I was sitting on jury and watching every other person get voted out, I could see what was happening, and I appreciated the moves for what they were. However, for everyone else, it wasn't the big moves that voted them out that were the reason that it grated on them so much. It was the little lies, those little friendship lies, like I was talking about really making those connections, those friendship connections count. The small ones that don't actually mean anything in the long run are what really count to people. They're what make the difference. If you lied to someone about having breakfast when you didn't, that means a lot more than voting them out at tribal, because why did you need to lie to me? There was no need to lie. You get what I mean? That's
right. And CD's saying, Sam has already betrayed Sophie, Ben, Khan, and now Jessie. She is playing a very cutthroat game. I do want to bring up word. Betrayed is a strong word. That's right. CD says Lion is part of the game, Gerald. But I think with Lion, you have to
100%.
Understand the jury's perception. And I think, as you're saying, I don't think people like Chrissy and David, they don't have that super fan understanding where they can respect those moves. And I think a lot of these people will be cut by such a move and being blindsided so hard. ALOLM here says 2 idols and 2 votes, 4 episodes intact for the couple Mark and Sam, at least mathematically. Survivor always surprises. It's going to be interesting to see because they do have 2 idols between them, which is massive. So theoretically, I think what ALOLM here is saying, they should theoretically last at least 1 episode together, possibly 2, provided they play 1 each. It's an interesting predicament for them. But as Robin was saying there before, I don't think Mark and Sam see themselves being in the minority at the moment. I don't think they would be able to recognize a blindside coming towards them because they're so blinded by power right now.
Mm-hmm. Like the move, again, going back to Geordie, really, really appreciate let's go for Mark. And I've been saying Mark's probably going to win. I was so hoping this pulled off because this is exactly the thinking I really, really like to see. Sam's obviously getting the heat. The idol will be played for Sam if there was an idol being played. Let's flip it on Mark. Brilliant. That would have so gone down. Unless you have that panic where she plays it and then Mark also plays it, you're kind of screwed. But I think that was a great idea to just a bit of smoke and mirrors and take out Mark while the heat's on Sam. Would have been perfect. And I don't understand Dave's we've got to play it patient. I've got a plan, but the plan can't go today. It's got to go next time. It's got to go after this vote. I don't understand that. That comes from someone who, from my knowledge, only is on there because Brianna's a fan of the show and he actually doesn't watch the show much. So he's coming in for me as a viewer. I haven't played, so sorry if I'm offending here, Gerald. Where for your season, Andy hadn't seen and didn't watch any Survivor all through lockdown when you had a delay. Dave's coming in like this. Yeah, Dave's coming in without so. This was the move. This move was golden. Should have taken it.
Oh, 100%. 100%. I think that they really missed an opportunity there to make that move and really get rid of those returning players because, as I said before, those returning players, any returning players in a season of newbies, are so dangerous. You have to be so careful. You at least want to be on level pegging with everyone else. Yeah. If you can't be above them, you want to be on level pegging.
Yeah. And CD saying here, rightfully, as you were saying before with the jury management, too many passive players, Dave, KJ, Michelle, Jordan, Chrissy, even Shay. They're not making big moves at all. We're not really seeing much. Chrissy seems to be a very emotional player. Dave, as you said, doesn't really understand the game all that well. He's only there for Brianna. Jordan and Michelle, we haven't seen anything from them, to be honest. KJ as well, haven't really seen much from her. And Shay, I think, is just there probably because of Benny, from what I understand. But they're not willing to make big moves. Now, I think, as you said, they're not going to respect those big moves like George wasn't respected on your season.
Well, yeah, true. However, I don't think it's that they're not willing to make big moves. I'm not sure that a couple of those mentioned have the pull to make those big moves.
Correct.
And
AJ
they could be trying. Yeah, they could be trying for all we know. We're only seeing what we see on the edit. We've missed out on 20 hours a day. And they could be out there trying to find these cracks, looking for more idols, and trying to make it happen. But they don't have the pull. They don't have the numbers. They're not sitting quite high enough on the pecking order to be able to have that influence, that they getting dismissed as they say to the rest of their alliance, oh, we should vote out Mark tonight. And they're like, oh, nah.
But you don't have anything to lose there. Like right now, like they don't have the pull to make that move. And even with the Mel and Michelle vote last week, too little too late for them. But this is an opportunity. You're in the minority. You're Dave and Chrissy, who's in this strong six, which just formed since the last tribal because the strong six broke. There's an opportunity to take a chance, and you're not taking this risk. Why? Are you afraid? What's going to happen? There is nothing negative from taking this risk. When the only thing I can think about is that it wasn't your move. Who cares at the moment? It's a move. Yeah. It gets you a step forward, and it gets you something.
When those numbers were so close that the option was there to be able to do it, I think that was a really good opportunity missed. But the likes of, say, well, the perfect example was when Mel got voted out a few weeks ago. She tried a few episodes ago. She tried to make that big move. They played different, and all that happened was they ended up voting by themselves. You know, you might if you can't make the big move happen, you might as well at least pick the move that stays with the majority so that you vote someone else out rather than your vote being completely null and void because you're trying to make a big move and no one follows you.
Yeah. And Marcus here, obviously, Geordie was the driving force behind this move to get rid of Mark. He suggests, and I think it is a pretty good point there, that he doesn't think that people fully trusted Geordie to work with because he was a loose unit. And I think Geordie was just betrayed by his brother, though. And for the likes of David and Chrissy, and Shay and Michelle and KJ, who don't have anyone in the game. Well, David and Chrissy have, of course, that somewhat of alliance in that loose six, the committee.
Strong six.
It was obviously some trepidation there about maybe it wasn't. Maybe it was that they couldn't trust. Maybe they weren't fully trusting of Geordie saying that Sam and Mark both had an idol.
Yeah, I 100% agree with that. Everyone dismissed Geordie's information as a fact that he was emotional after the night before, and he was just trying to find cracks. I don't think that I did a head count last night. I don't think about 5 people out of the people that he told believed him that there was an idol, and I think there'll be some shocked faces. Well, shocked or surprised when Sam actually pulls out that idol, and they're like, "Oh, you know what? Geordie was right." You know, and I think some people are going to be really kicking themselves when that gets played.
Just backing up a slight second, because I was thinking about this the other day. Like I'm loving like the Geordie hustle at the moment, planting seeds, but I feel like he's planting them just a little bit too late. When we talk about Geordie and Jesse wanting to make that move prior on Josh, I think Josh was the wrong target. I think they could have changed and I think the Josh target came from everyone sees Josh as the leader, but it's really me. It's really me. I want to be seen as the leader. And I feel like there was a little bit of this weird ego element to it. Whereas if he'd switched the target to a potential Mark, to someone else, I think they might have been able to get that vote across the week before or the tribal before.
Definitely. It's really interesting, and I would really like to see some more backstory on the midweek Josh vote and what had happened before and what had led up to that. I'm sure that there has got to have been more talk around camp that has sparked that vote, whether it was Josh leading at challenges, like trying to influence people or trying to throw orders around at the challenge or what, I don't know. But I believe that there has got to have been more to that vote than what we've seen. Because it was very out of the blue, and all of a sudden, on the edit, it was very out of the blue, and it was all of a sudden, everything was pointed that way, and everyone was talking that way. There's got to have been something else that week rather than just, oh, Josh is a good vote this time.
Yeah, I do think part of what comes into that as well is as Josh being seen as the leader, the mastermind behind everything. Again, it comes back to Mark's gameplay. Mark's gameplay has just been sensational the way he's playing socially. I'm honestly surprised that he really hasn't had anyone's target pointing toward him at this stage. He really does seem to be coasting by, despite the fact. And I thought at the merge it would blow up that Mark had an idol and it'd be this whole hoopla. And I thought then that Geordie or Jesse would be going home because of it. But really, Mark has just been able to manage his perception within the game, and no one seems to be looking at him right now.
Yeah, it's just it'd be a while like this time. Instead of Sam, we'll go for Mark. But it is interesting because that's got to take some form of skill to be able to decrease your threat. He's had this idol, and even and Geordie says it, and I'm a big believer of this. Yeah, an idol's powerful, but I always believe knowledge is way more powerful. And Geordie's been saying that, but I just don't think he's used the knowledge correctly. He's gone to Josh. Unfortunately, Josh sided with Mark. This time around, he's gone and everyone, he hasn't used the information correctly, because I do believe he's got so much potential to have power here. But and Mark said this, 2 weeks ago for us now, was Geordie knows I've got an idol. He's a loose thread. Mark hasn't, and this is my criticism with Mark, Mark has never done anything to snip that loose thread. And that loose thread has now told everyone his secret idol has become a public idol. Now, Sam's secret idol is also a public idol because of this one loose thread that Mark has kept around. I really think he should have got rid of Geordie, and I love that he didn't, but he should, I feel like, but he's still not a target.
I think that was I actually think that keeping Geordie around was a really good play for Mark. I 100% agree. Information is absolute king when you're out there, and that's why I told everyone and made it my life's mission to know that everyone knew Simon had the idol. I only knew he had one, but he had two, as we know. But it did not change the fact. It didn't make any difference. So I made it my life's mission to know that everyone knew and everyone believed me. I made sure that those connections were strong enough that everyone believed that he did, and every single person on both tribes thought that Simon was the biggest threat, and he had this idol, and he had to go home. And that's what happened. The moment merge happened, bang, the moment that opportunity was there. However, I believe that Mark did that good of a job at downplaying his threat level with the idol, which Simon couldn't do, that Geordie ended up with it turned on top of him, and he ended up as the threat. And that's why Mark has kept him around, because it's keeping the heat off him. While everyone's thinking about Geordie and being like, oh, Geordie's telling everyone, Mark's like, they're worried about him because he was telling everyone, I've still got the idol.
Because I feel and I think that should be gone.
I think with Geordie, he almost put his foot in his own mouth, which I think is Mark played it very well in trying to slow and think about what had to happen with Geordie. He used him for as long as he could as part of that strong six with those three couples plus David. But I think Geordie really did put his foot in his own mouth. I think what you did, Gerald, in telling everyone about the idol, you had that currency with Kez, Flick, Daney, and the like. Whereas I think with Geordie, especially in this last episode, it was such a last-minute scramble. The Joker, that's right.
We heard it 17 times.
The market already spread so much disinformation
that's right.
After the last vote. Well, it wasn't disinformation, it was information that was detrimental to his game, that people sort of dismissed him straight away that, it's information, but it doesn't really mean much. It might be true, it might be not. He just talks a lot of shit. And I think that was a really good play for Mark, and he played it really well to be able to swing that back around and use Geordie's own information against him. That was a really good play by Mark, and both of them are so dangerous. Both of them should have been sent home, but if I was there, I would have been looking at the both of them to send them home. But I think that Mark, with the idol, is so much more dangerous than what Geordie is at the minute. There's an easy way to fix Geordie's spreading of information if you're on the other side, and that's just don't tell him anything, Yeah. Whereas Mark having an idol, there's no easy way to fix that unless you vote him out.
That's right. That's right. And I do want to sort of mention here and circle back a little bit to that immunity challenge where Shay passed out and Geordie won his second immunity of this week. Really just such a ballsy effort to last 90 minutes. Again, we did mention and sort of allude to this potential Sam versus Shay matchup. Of course, Sam left it all out in the course a couple of weeks ago as well, but Shay really just all guts and glory. It's full props to her. She's been a sensational physical competitor.
Yeah, she's definitely. Well, I think there's usually has one of these really just amazing women just coming in that just can last forever. She has that Brookness to her. So that's, and I feel like Hayley even had that in your season, Gerald, a little bit. There's just she's amazing. However, Geordie's mental resolve is just so strong that she, like, in a regular season, she probably should have won that, but Geordie wasn't giving in.
Definitely. It's about being able to combine those two elements, that perfect size and physical prowess, because there is a perfect build for Survivor. And sadly, I'm never going to be that perfect build for Survivor. Not for Survivor, but for those endurance immunity challenges, there is a perfect build for it. Yeah. And it is Hayley, Shay, Sam, Geordie if you're a bloke, Andrew Youles if you're a guy, except for an over-the-head holding challenge like the balls. But any of those standing challenges, there is a perfect type, and it is that small, lean, muscular type of person that's not much more than 5'3" or 4, and sort of below that 60 kilo mark is your optimal size, because there's I explained it the other day. We had a watch party for the episode where Sam stole the idol. And I was there with Juicy Dave and Brianna and Michelle, and it was a cracking night. And this exact scenario was talked about, and I explained it to the whole crowd that when you're out there, that immunity challenge, the way that they are, and even the weighted challenges that are done on a percentage of your body weight, they're not fair. They're made to be fair by being a percentage of your body weight, but they are so far from fair that it's not funny, because I might be double the weight of, let's say, Shay, right? She's 60 kilos, I'm 120. My muscles might be twice as much as Shay's. Maybe not. I can lift twice as much, whatever. But my ligaments and tendons are not twice as strong as Shay's. You get what I mean? So when you're out there, those endurance challenges, they're not about muscles and being able to hold. It's about your joints, your tendons, and your ligaments in your feet, elbows, knees, shoulders, etc. And when you've got those weighted challenges or those endurance challenges where it's personal weight, like the standing challenge, they are really engineered for that smaller frame, and that's why those people excel so much, because the strain on those ligaments and tendons and whatnot in any bigger framed person that isn't that really lean, fit, muscular build is just so much more. And there's no way that you can train your ligaments or tendons to be stronger. You just can't do it. And
you've got charm for days, though, so don't worry about that, mate. You don't have to worry. You got charm for days. You don't have to worry. You don't have to compete. You're charmed.
Social game. Yeah, I'm here for the social game now. I worked that out,
Yeah, and I think another thing that you mentioned there with those weighted challenges as well that you got to consider after 32 days is you're going to lose a lot of muscle, a lot of fat as well. And if you're going into the game at 95 and on day 32, you might be, down to 80, 87, 88, 86 even. You're going to lose that weight.
I'd lost 18.5% of my body weight. I went in at 130, the heaviest I'd ever been, and I come out at 111.9.
Yeah, and that's the thing. You lose all that, obviously, that muscle and stuff, which I think I think Harry Hill said that on his second season, instead of bulking up, obviously he focused on bulking down a little bit. So in those challenges, he could, last a lot longer. And I think that is a great strategy to have in Survivor, really working on that grip strength, as you say, strengthening your ligaments and your tendons, almost like an Australian Ninja Warrior sort of workout.
Yeah, 100%. And it's that really fine line that you've got to run where I put on weight before I went. I put on 5 kilos before I went. And it worked great for me because I lost body fat to start with. That was almost solely what I lost for the first 2 weeks. And it was great because I felt unreal. Everyone else, the really lean guys that went in there, the likes of Andrew Youles, the likes of Way, Emmett, even Simon, all felt like they'd been hit by a truck. They had no energy. They were lethargic because their body was eating their own muscle mass.
I read
right from day one. I felt $1 million, but I paid for it on the other end, where in all them challenges, I just got kicked in the teeth.
Malcolm at one stage, he was saying the first season he went on, he had this, I'm eating this amount, I'm getting ready, I'm eating rice, I'm eating this, and he had his set calories, and that worked for him, whatever. The second season he went, screw that, I'm going to keep that set calories, but I'm just going to eat like KFC, and I'm going to eat junk. And I'm pretty sure it was Malcolm. It could have been Malcolm, might have been Joe, but I'm pretty sure it was Malcolm. So he ends up keeping that same calorie intake, but eats complete rubbish. So by the time he gets on the island, he's eating like rice and beans, which are really good for you in general. So he became, now he's eating this really great food. His body went hyper and went, oh my God, you're feeding me great stuff now. And he excelled. So there's like so many different strategies beforehand, like bulk up, don't do. And he's like, he tried to do different. I'm like, that's a weird, strange, cool strategy that he tried.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, ALOLM here is saying, keep your act sharp for your next ticket to Survivor, Gerald. As Sandra proves, you never know, the ticket could be on your door any season. So what would you do to prepare next time then? And are you ready?
I would be ready. If they rang me tomorrow, I would be on the bus tonight.
Yeah. Must be nice.
I've got that bag
I've been waiting for years.
You're coming up to peak show season as well, though, Gerald. So you'd be peak fitness because these shows in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, so I've been training non-stop, trying to get in at least sort of 5 or 6 days a week training ready. I've got a World Championship in 2 weeks up at Toowoomba, so I'm trying to taper into that now. I had about a week or 10 days off, and only started again about 5 days ago. I had a small injury, but it worked well because I had been training hard for the last sort of 2.5 months getting ready. So a 10-day break was nice to recuperate, and now I can smash that 2-week taper into that world title. And then after that, it's only about 10 days, and the World Championships down Sydney Royal Easter Show are on. Yeah. So it's not far away at all, and that training, it comes and goes very quickly in these times. And it's the same as Survivor. That lead-up time when you get that call is just gone like that. The drop of a hat, and it's on top of you.
Yeah, we'll go back to the game quickly just to round out this Geordie trying to rally votes against Sam at this stage. As we said, obviously he was trying to pitch very hard to David in particular. I was very blindsided by it, and as you said before, Gerald, I really thought that Sam could have been going home and she wasn't going to play her idol, because I was convinced that KJ, Michelle, and Shay would know it's probably in their best interest to vote for Sam and get rid of her. And it seemed like David was probably on board with that as well. But David really, he didn't see the truth in Geordie at the end of the day, and just didn't trust him well enough. And I think that was, as we said before, Geordie putting his foot in his own mouth by playing such an erratic game. Almost reminded me a little bit of Tony Vlachos or Luke Toki or Chappies as well, with the way he's been running around the island, saying so many things that at the end of the day, it's almost like the boy cried wolf, and no one believes him at the end of the day when he says Sam has an idol and let's get her out.
That's it. The boy who cried wolf, the Joker. This whole thing, unfortunately, has been his undoing, which is why it becomes fine for Mark to leave him in there. because if he didn't have that sort of reputation, you got to get rid of him. But for some strange reason, whatever, and I haven't been seen he must be telling so many ridiculous lies and silly stories out there that no one believes a thing. That's crazy.
Mm.
Yeah. And look, I don't think that, I think that they do believe him somewhat. I think they do think there is some merit there, but I think that everyone else that's outside of Mark and Sam's alliance thinks that jumping on with Geordie at this point would be like trying to jump on the sinking SS Simo back on Brawn 2.0.
That's right.
A lost cause and a ship that's going down no matter what, and I don't want to be seen to be on that.
Especially when you know that Mark has an idol as well, and Mark and Sam are basically 2 guaranteed votes. If Sam plays that idol, Shay goes home, sure. But then again, as we said before, even if Mark and Sam are on the outs, Mark still has that idol and he can play that. And at that point, if Mark and Sam are the only 2 basically in a minority, they can play that 50-50. There's every chance they can survive. There is that almost Godfather intimidation, which Mark isn't playing. He's not as brutal as a Boston Rob and going against a Boston Rob, but certainly I think in the back of their mind, they are thinking, what if Sam plays her idol and we come back to camp and, they're both angry, or even if they do successfully vote out Sam, they still got to come back to an angry Mark, which I think is dangerous. That could be another reason for the trepidation as well.
Yeah, maybe. Sam, whether if they got rid of Mark and Sam stayed, Sam actually doesn't have much legs to stand on because of her strong, ruthless gameplay.
Yeah.
Even though we say ruthless, like the Khan vote, she was kind of cornered. She's been kind of cornered, like Sophie, Shaw, Ben, whatever. That's pre-merge. Doesn't really matter because they're not on the jury. Now we're talking about jury. Khan, she was kind of trapped. She didn't have much leg, although we said last week she could have just teed up. She could have teed up Khan and said, "Hey, it's coming. Play your idol," and kept Khan, but she chose not to. If she gets upset, she can't really she can't. She just can't because of her ruthless style. So it just doesn't. Yeah. It goes nowhere. If she doesn't want people to be upset with her, she can't be upset.
Yeah, Sam is going to end up like France in World War II. Yeah. She is going to try and take on Germany head on herself, even though the cards are way stacked against her now, and she's going to get blitzed from both sides this week. She is just going to get nailed after she took that idol, and then in this last tribal, she was so jittery, and everyone was sort of looking back and forward at her and we're like, why is she so off the rails right now? And I think that everyone is going to see that, and she is going to cop some serious votes this week. She, like me, is the last person to cop votes on this season, and I believe we're up to day 31.
32.
So we are at the same episode where I got voted out on day 33. So we're at that point in time where the last person that hasn't copped a vote cops a vote.
That's right. And I did see that you posted that on your Instagram story, I think. And I think Jericho, was he in that mix as well?
Yeah, and Big Johnny Easto and Lee Castledine. Yeah, there's some big names there.
Rarefied air there, yeah. Rarefied air you're living in, Gerald. Obviously, in the end, we see Shay is voted out in a 7-2-1 vote. Obviously, Shay votes alongside Geordie in this instance, but Michelle and KJ and David obviously weren't convinced. KJ did get a sole vote, and I do want to bring it up because I've seen a lot of conjecture about it. Josh seems to be the one that continues to vote for KJ. It's been twice this week he's voted for KJ. Obviously, we haven't seen anything in the edit about it, but there's got to be a story there somewhere.
Maybe that's in the end, though. Shay, I never voted for you.
That's right. Yep, you never did vote. I don't think anyone knows that Josh is sending that sole vote at the moment, but it could be interesting if it comes up. And I wish we did get that story. But Shay is going to purgatory, Gerald. This is something you saw in your season with Baden and Haley going to Redemption Rock, as it was called. We did say before that we could be seeing a Shay versus Sam matchup. Do we think the target is more so on Sam now or Geordie?
Yeah, look,
Sam.
I think it's got to be Sam. It does. There's certainly is a number there that wants to get rid of Geordie, but unless something that we haven't seen yet really jumps out, someone has got to click that Sam has that idol, and the tide has got to turn on it. There's got to be so many people that thought that was a really dirty move on Jessie that she's burnt some bridges with, that will also stand up with Geordie to push that move further ahead and see that she is also a strategic threat. That it's got to be Sam. It's got to be Sam.
We do have Dave's big plan, though. Remember, Dave's big plan.
Well, that's it. And bit of behind the scenes goss. I went over with Dave and Brianna for the watch party the other day, and Dave said, "Watch this space because there is some big stuff still to come."
Look,
so that come from the horse's mouth.
There's nothing you can, you can't sit there anymore. You can't play the 6. You're at the bottom of the 6. You got to break up the pairs. They're 2 votes. We're at the cut time. You have to get rid of them. We need singles. That if Josh and Jordan and Mark and Sam are there near the end, that is ridiculous and very, very poor play on everybody else's behalf.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, well, I do want to bring up, it was a very minor moment there, but you did mention Juicy Dave. We haven't seen anything of him on the screen, and I'll bring up that confessional chart soon because I do want to hear the King of Confessionals view on this season. But with Dave, there was a moment I loved. It was very brief. They said as Dave passed away overnight, and unfortunately he hadn't passed away. We love Juicy Dave here. It reminded me a little bit of Celebrity Big Brother UK. There was a scene there after David Bowie unfortunately passed away. A very comical moment if people haven't checked that out. A moment in reality TV history. But David, we haven't seen him at all on the show, really. He went a record 11 episodes in a row without confessionals, Gerald. Breaking your record, which I'm not sure if you'd be pleased or displeased by that. But courtesy of John O'Gray here, we do have a confessional chart. David got two confessionals in this last episode, but as I said, 11 episodes in a row. And Gerald, we saw last season you were promoted as the man of few words, but as we know, you do have a bit of a mouth. You do love to chat.
Allegedly, so they tell me. I can't really comment on the subject, but I have heard from many a reliable source that you just can't shut me up.
Yeah. But no,
I was waiting for 15 minutes to get in, but I had to wait because you're on a rant. I'm like, what's going on?
Well,
when do I come back and
I can't help that. We started me on a subject that I'm passionate about on Survivor, and I'm going to talk for 3 days. You're just going to sit back and wait for it to unfold. Take notes, so you can comment.
With Mel and Michelle, and you mentioned you have spoken with Michelle, and you were at that watch party the other day with her. Disappointing not to see Mel and Michelle get confessionals. Jay as well got 0 confessionals this season. It really is a sticking point that we love to bring up time and time again about these confessionals because we want to see all 24 characters come to life on the screen, and especially when you're suffering for so long out in the outback, you want that moment on television, I'm sure, which you got a little bit of airtime, Gerald, but just not enough. And some of these characters are getting the same sort of treatment this season.
Yeah, exactly. And it happens every season. And look, I can't speak for what happened in everyone else's confessionals, but for me personally, I know that we all do mountains of confessionals. And I know that there was some confessionals out there, and more than one, that got really emotional. And there was some really big stories that got told and some really emotive confessionals that happened out there. And there was tears shed and laughter happened and some really amazing scenes that I think it'd be really amazing for some of the fans to see, because there is so much that us as viewers at home don't see. And even the extras on 10 Play are only a tiny, tiny little snippet of those little behind the scenes things. And we know how funny some of those are. And there's mountains, thousands of incidents like that we don't get to see. And it is a real shame that some of those people don't get confessionals at all. That's just really, really hard to swallow as someone that's been there. It really cut me deep that I only got the few amount of confessionals that I did. So I can only imagine someone like Chelsea or Jay that didn't get any. They sat out there or like Chelsea ended up out there for 29 days or 30 days and didn't get a single one. I was out there for 34 and I only got a handful. But to be able to have to sit there episode after episode after episode, thinking of all the amazing things you did, the amount of strat chats you did, the conversations you had with people, the searching for idols that you did, the busting your nut in challenges, trying to rat out those puzzles or trying to win those endurance challenges and to get nothing would be absolutely brutal to just have to sit there and watch and be like, oh, I did this, and this week. It's got to be on there, and to be disappointed again and again.
Well, that's the thing, like you just had that confessional count up, and we see. I didn't look at this, and I had no idea, but we got Geordie 17 in the whole hour and a bit episode or hour episode, and like earlier I said he's the Joker 17 times. Just coincidentally, I picked that number. We don't need to see he's interesting at the moment, but he said the same thing about how he's the Joker so many times in that episode. And what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 people didn't get it. Yeah, 6. 7 people didn't get a sniff. Didn't get a sniff of a single confessional. And that's
it's not like an hour. Like 5 seconds, like is all someone's asking for. It's not.
Yeah. 17. We could have removed at least 3 I'm the Jokers. We could have really removed those to give someone else some screen time. It's just, we get it.
And we see it again and again. George was the same in our season. At the start of the season, it was, as we know, it was Joey and Simon. And then at the end, it was George and Haley. And it's the same in every other season, whether it's Luke Toki or David Jeanette or anyone. Like you see it every single season again. And there's these other people that are there and they are playing the game. No one sits out there. Like people always say about people that are just coasting and whatnot. And sure, there are people that are sitting back a bit. But even those people, no one sits out there for 30 days and does nothing. No one.
Yeah. That's absolutely right.
And twiddle your thumbs for 30 days. It does not happen.
Yeah. And it is disappointing that we don't get to see the full story from everyone. And as you say, it's 5-10 seconds in every episode. And for 12 people at the merge, let's say, that's about a minute total if you're giving everyone a 5-second confessional. It's not much, but you want to know that you're on the show, especially when you're out there for 30 days and giving your all. It is a little bit disappointing, and hopefully, we've been whinging about it for a long time, but hopefully one day they learn and we do get a level confessional count.
Well, that's it, and it's funny because it doesn't even have to be a confessional that's in the episode about when it happened. We saw a perfect example when Croc got voted out. Chrissy did a confessional about how devastating it was that Croc was gone. And the second half of that confessional was the exact same confessional that was played about her missing her kids in about episode 3.
Yeah.
It was the exact same second half of that confessional that they played after Croc went home as it was on day 3. It was the exact same.
Now, I don't know the confessional because I'm oblivious and so stupid, but there was that one confessional pre-merge that someone's doing a confessional wearing the merge buff pre-merge.
Yeah.
Crazy.
I think that happened with Khan, but Mark Sevens here says, unfortunately, the edit doesn't please the super fans as it's aimed at the casuals who don't watch every episode, as is a lot about Oz reality TV, and that's absolutely right. I think we were always going to see Sandra obviously get a top-heavy edit, and she was third in that confessional count. But yeah, I mean, it would be nice to see everyone get at least a little bit, just a smidgen
even if it is
of everyone's personality.
Even if it is at the casual viewers, I can tell you now, the casual viewers would like that too. Like the production team behind these reality shows and there's narratives. And I had this conversation with a mate of mine because we're talking about American and Australian. And I, at the moment, like after season 41, I'm like, oof, that was a struggle town for me. I enjoyed it. But for me, I've been watching Survivor since day dot. I do prefer the Australian version at the moment, but the edit and like, we don't need to dictate where everyone gets, like, give everyone some time. Like even the casual people, they're not idiots. Why are they making us feel like we're all stupid? That's how I feel like the edit is. They're dumbing it down. The casual people aren't that dumb. I mean, sorry, maybe they are. I don't know.
Or even if you think that a certain person isn't talking, let's say, good enough strategy, I'm sure that person had at least one emotive, non-strat talk confessional.
Look, I'm liking Mark. Mark's not exactly Mr. Charisma on his confessionals. You know, I love what he's doing. I love it, but he's not a Dave who's like got his two idols and being Iron Man. He's not doing these. He's just talking. He's just being a human. And he's getting plenty of screen time. Everyone else can just be a human and talk.
You know, it's funny. Everyone keeps saying, and production always said, and whatnot, that we could never fit everyone in because we've only got 24 episodes and they're only an hour and a half each, and 48 days.
Sorry, guys, I have to leave. My son just woke up, so I got to go. But keep on going. Sorry to interrupt you. Thanks for the chat. Finish it off strong, boys.
Absolute blast, brother.
Thank you, Robin.
Talk soon. But as I was saying, it's that was the whole conversation, that it's only 24 episodes and we can't fit everything in. But the likes of MasterChef goes for 82 episodes, I think it is, a season. Or I think it's more than that. 108.
Five episodes a week, 13 weeks, I think it is. It's ridiculous. The block is 100.
One episode a day, like one episode for every day of Survivor. You know, like, even if a day that there isn't a challenge on and it's only talk around the camp, even if it was only a half an hour episode or whatever, because we see varying episode lengths, and it's just strat talk and a funny episode with funny moments that are happening, or funny confessionals or emotional confessionals, whatever. It's interesting because, look, I mean, I might be a little bit biased because I'm, as we know, a massive Survivor fan, but to be able to have 82 episodes or whatever it is of MasterChef and to watch people cooking, no offense, Carl, but I'd rather watch 48 episodes of Survivor than 82 episodes of people cooking cakes.
Absolutely. I think they're cakes. I think they're more so
anything
dinner style. But yeah, no, I mean, there were some stressful moments back in the day watching Julie Goodwin and Poe cook crock and bushes, but it got tired for me as well.
It gets so repetitive, whereas Survivor is an emotional game and everything's changing, and I think it's something that we could really expand on and give those people time to express just how emotional this game is, and just how much strategy is in it for some people, and just how physically taxing it is for some people. There's so many different sides that can be explored that we see nothing of on the edit, which is really, really sad for fans and for general viewers, which I think would really entice them more if we got a more even edit for all of these people throughout the series. The community connection and the connection between fans and players across the board would be so much more. I think people get so much more invested when they know the person that they're looking for. I know how much support I had with the little bit of fan base that I ended up with for the little tiny amount of airtime that I got was unbelievable. And I think that, again, with a slightly more even edit, the fans would be a lot more happy with that across the board, because they can connect with these other people like Chelsea, who is an amazing person, awesome chick. She is just an absolute beast. And we see none of that, and she made some great connections out there with people and played the game, and she was in on those strat talks, and she got branded as someone who had no strategy. She didn't do anything. She just sat there for 30 days and did nothing. And she was an awesome competitor and an awesome survivor player, and we see none of it. And it's just, It's really sad. And you can tell why it happened, especially being medically evacuated and whatnot. They don't want someone they didn't want to waste story time on someone who wasn't going to be there. But I think that's beside the point. The whole idea is that you want people to be guessing who's going to win at the end, not that this person's had 170 confessionals and this person's had 3. Which one do you think's going to win,
Yeah, no, it's hard, and hopefully in the future they can find a way to give at least everyone a confessional at least once a week. I think is the bare minimum, but we can only hope they do improve it in the future. But Gerald, we do have 2 pairs left in the game now, and what is 5 singles left in the game with 1 on purgatory. I do want to know, who do you think at this point in the game is in the best place to win?
Oh, look, without a doubt, unfortunately, I'm going to say unfortunately, because I would like to see it changed up and me be proved wrong, but I think it's Mark for sure. He's sitting in such a strong spot. He's deflected the blame away from him. He's got a shield sitting there. He's got 2 shields sitting there, one in a non-ally in Geordie and one in his ally Sam. He's sitting in such a comfortable position right now. He's still in the majority. I would nearly say game, set, match.
And you know what? I would agree with you. It is looking like quite a dominant win, and almost actually, I suppose Haley wasn't that dominant at the end of the day. I suppose almost akin to a David Gannett at the end of the day in All Stars. I think he is really emerging as probably the strongest player so far, socially and strategically. I think he has done a very good job at deflecting the target from himself. But we did mention before that I think across the board we all see Sam as being one that is going to be in the chopping block. And I do think that Geordie potentially can rally those numbers with David, Chrissy, KJ, and Michelle, and try and turn it around somehow. I think, especially if Geordie wins individual immunity, I think the singles will start to realize, okay, our next best option is to get rid of one of these couples and break up this power, because it's such a massive power to have in the game at this point.
Yeah, 100%. It is quite a big power to have, but everyone's got to realize that surely, again, we're sitting here at home and we know that they've been sitting out there for 30 days and they've been now merged for 6 or 8, and they've got to realize that. Like, you're sitting there and everything runs through your mind. They know that for sure. And it's just a matter of whether they can convince people to step out of their comfort zone to do it in the moment. That's the thing. And the hardest thing about getting those people to step out of their comfort zone is giving them a safe enough area to step into. See, our game in Brains versus Brawn could have been so much different, and I probably could have ended up further down the track, possibly, depending how it panned out, or I could have gone home even sooner when Haley came to me and Flick and offered
that's right,
for me and Flick to join her and to come across, and we thought about it in the time, but they were leaving us high and dry there. They were just trying to get us out into the open. There was no safe spot for us to sit into. They were too big of a majority if we stepped out of our majority. They were too big of a majority on brains to let us move in there. It was not a strategically sound move for us to go over there because they were too big. There was no way it would have left us sitting completely out in the open. And I think the power here in this season has shifted enough to almost warrant someone stepping out and creating that big rift. They're very even at the moment, which is great for us as viewers because it gives many options. But who's going to step out of the mold and do it is another story. I think Chrissy and Dave are the two potentials that I think would probably be game enough to step out. But again, it's just one of those things that Dave, being a player that hasn't played, and also Chrissy and being people that aren't massive fans either, are they going to take that chance when they're already in an alliance that they know? Are they going to step out of that comfort zone? That's the big question mark.
That's right. And you did mention there before that David does have something up his sleeve. So let's hope we see that because, I mean, in the past, with Sue's big move in Australian Survivor Season 1, it didn't quite pan out. But let's hope Juicy Dave's big move comes onto our screens. It's going to be very exciting to see.
Come to fruition.
Yeah, well, we never know whether it will or not because it all comes down to what they show on the screen at the end of the day.
Exactly. If it doesn't happen.
Next week is going to be very, very juicy. And with Purgatory as well, as we say, Gerald is hoping that they are put through hell.
I am excited to watch it, I tell you.
Yeah, and there's plenty more Survivor to come this year because, Gerald, I mean, we both know Survivor 42 premieres tomorrow, which is very exciting. What are your thoughts going into that? Have you looked too much into it at this stage?
Look, I had a look at the casting. And I've been trying to stay away from any of the other spoilers. I try and avoid them to at least get some of the game myself and be able to analyze it now. I used to love the spoilers before my season. I'd be like, oh, shit, yeah, we'll dive in and find out who made merge in week 1. This will be gold.
Yeah.
But nowadays, I like being able to sit back and watch it and see if I can pick where it's going to go and really try and hone my skills for Survivor through that. And I really enjoy that. But I think one of the most interesting things that I found that I have seen is the fact that there's no Ponderosa, allegedly, this season. That's going to be a bit of a change. I don't know what's going to happen there. That'll be something different. I think that'll be a big shake-up. A lot of people will be, I'm sure that the fan pages will be going ballistic with the same question again and again of where's Ponderosa?
Yeah. I didn't actually know that, but there you go. You're more ahead of it than I am. I mean, I suppose that does come back to what happened with the events in Survivor 41, which isn't the purpose of this podcast to go into that. But obviously there was some jury developments there that were a little bit nasty. Allegedly. It's all alleged. It's all alleged until we see it on the TV screen, or even if we do, we don't know whether it comes from day 2 or from day 32. But certainly, yeah, looking forward to Survivor 42, and of course, we'll be covering it here on Reality Pop tomorrow at 12 p.m. Australian Eastern Daylight Time, 11 a.m. For Queenslanders like yourself. What would it be? 7 p.m. in New York. We have a Survivor 42 kickoff show. I'll be joining Adam and Gideon, the co-hosts of the Survivor Buffs, as well as Peridium, the Survivor specialists, idled out, and some more special guests to preview Survivor 42, which is very exciting. Obviously, a big season ahead of us. It's going to be very exciting to see new castaways as always, but it doesn't mean that we can't still keep our focus on Australian Survivor because, of course, we've still got, 4 or 5 weeks to go on this show. And next week, we will be joined by some Survivor royalty. I do have to confirm whether they will be coming on to the show, but we will be joined by a former Survivor winner. we'll be joined by a former Survivor winner, who is not an Australian Survivor winner, but an international Survivor winner. And you said there, who did you say before, Gerald? You did say a name, did you?
I did, but I'm going to keep it retracted. I want to see the excitement come when we find out exactly who it is.
Should we save it for? Should we save? We do have another guest from your season, Gerald, who I have confirmed will be coming in a couple weeks' time, and they do say their hellos. A member from the Brains tribe. Any ideas on your end as to who that may be?
Ooh.
We've had Simon on so far. Simon was obviously on Brawn, but a Brains member. You did play a merge with them.
Ooh, Laura Wells is a great member. She was a legend.
It's not Laura. Not Laura.
Not Laura. Is it Haley? Maybe.
No. Didn't make it as far as Haley. Somewhere in between.
Oh, Kara.
Not Kara. It is Wei Chim. Wei Chim will be joining in 2 weeks' time, which really excited for that. So yeah, Wei, of course, is great at analyzing, just like you, Gerald. So looking forward to having her. And yes, that guest next week. I will say it's not US Survivor, so it's either South Africa or New Zealand, a winner from one of those shows. But you guys will have to find out next week. I haven't figured out the time yet, but certainly make sure you subscribe to the channel to find out when and where that podcast will be, so you can join us live for that one, because I'm sure there'll be plenty to discuss, because as we're saying, we do have a purgatory matchup and some chaos that will definitely go down with Juicy Dave's big move.
Yeah, so hopefully it is an absolute cracker. I have no doubt that there's going to be some absolute fireworks over these last week or two, and I can't wait to see it, and I can't wait to be able to sit down and analyse it with all you guys online, with all the Survivor fans on all the fan pages, as well as with Riley, the legend himself. And I'll be tuning into Reality Pop as well, and hopefully I get to talk to Riley again very shortly, as well as everyone else out there, and hopefully we can catch up with some Survivor fans at the finale viewing that we are going to try and organise. So if you're in Brisbane or around, possibly even Sydney, yet to be confirmed, keep a lookout online. Show up, have a blast.
You might have to let me know whether that's in Brisbane or Sydney, because I'll certainly be keen to get around that. Maybe we could even try a live stream or something at the finale. We'll certainly think of something there, because I do want to do something big for the Australian Survivor Blood vs. Water finale. And yeah, Gerald, hopefully we can get you on later, maybe for the US or even South Africa, because it's always a pleasure talking with you. Do you want to plug your Instagram? Where can people find you?
Yeah, absolutely. And I hope I can get back on here and have a chat to you guys. It is absolutely amazing to be able to analyze with you guys. It's so much fun. And to be able to answer some questions for some of the viewers is awesome. Love connecting with you guys. So if you guys like connecting with me, jump onto my Instagram, check out Gerald the Woodchopper on Instagram and Facebook. Hit it up, have a blast. Feel free to send me a message, send me some links, and we'll make some fun of it.
That's right, absolutely. And I have popped Gerald's Instagram link in the description down below. So there's a little shortcut for you guys if you want to go straight there and click that blue follow button. And definitely worth checking out. Gerald, you're an absolute legend. Really enjoyed talking with you as always. I hope you stay safe with the cleanup up there. And I do wish you all the best over the coming weeks. And yeah, look forward to you performing in the East Show and the World Championships. How are you shaping up for that?
Yeah, look, mate, it's coming together nicely. It's certainly going to be a battle of the Titans down there again, as always. It is the Wimbledon of woodchopping down in Sydney, but if anyone else wants to come down and watch me battle it out with the rest of the world's best, feel free to turn up right through the Sydney Royal Easter Show. The big World Championships are on the Easter weekend. Good Friday, Easter Saturday, and Easter Monday. But I'll be chopping all 12 days of the Sydney Royal Easter Show. So feel free to come down, hit me up, have a chat, have a bit of fun. We'll take some photos for Instagram, and we'll have an absolute blast.
Yeah, I might have to say g'day to you on Good Friday, because I'll be just across the road at a core stadium it is now for Bulldogs versus Rabbitohs. It's a Good Friday tradition for me, being a Doggies fan. But I'll certainly, I might have to catch up with you when I'm in Sydney on Good Friday. But no, looking forward to it, and yeah, all the best in the World Championships and the Easter Show.
Fingers crossed, mate. And yeah, it's going to be an absolute blast to be able to catch up with everyone. So hopefully it's sooner rather than later, and I hope that everyone stays safe out there. Stay safe in these waters and these wild times that there's still a lot of storms and stuff getting around, especially down around Sydney and the Central Coast down New South Wales. So everyone stay dry, stay safe, find some big hills to set up camp on, and we'll see you very shortly.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for watching, guys. And as always, yeah, go follow Gerald, give this one a like, subscribe, and we'll see you next week with a special guest. Thanks for watching, guys. Bye.
Ciao.